Hi and welcome back to the channel. Sorry the videos have been late the last couple of weeks. Last week I got home from a trip and started getting sick, and then my phone decided that it wasn't going to record anymore, and that's how I record my videos. So finally yesterday I was able to get a new phone, and hopefully it's going to work this time. So we'll see. As you can see, I'm outside, so hopefully it won't be too long because it's kind of hot out here. I live in South Louisiana, so I'm enjoying the nice weather, but it's supposed to be raining supposedly next week. So I figured I'd be outside while I could. So let's get started. So for this video, I'm talking about bibliotherapy, and I'm using Dr. White's book again, Sibling Grief. Bibliotherapy is a process where you use a book, can be fiction or nonfiction, to help with processing whatever you're going through in your life. The most common are self-help books, but it can be done with fiction books as well. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, and the difference between bibliotherapy and just reading is that you choose a book with a purpose. So you choose something that you feel relates to what you're going through and what you're wanting to work through. So for the purpose of this channel, we're talking about sibling grief. So the book I chose has to do with a character that lost a sibling. I chose this book called A Hope Remembered by Stacey Henry, and I didn't do it quite the right way because I didn't go out searching for the book. Somebody gave it to me, and it was just laying around the house, and I decided to read it one day, and it really worked for this purpose. And I didn't go in planning to use it that way, but while I was reading, it started kind of opening those emotions up for me to experience, and I really connected with one of the characters who lost their brother. So it surprised me, and then when I read about bibliotherapy and sibling grief, it all fit together. So I figured that was the perfect book to use for this topic. In chapter 10, Dr. White gives a list of benefits to using bibliotherapy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can go and look at it for yourself if you get a copy of the book. I do have the Amazon link still in the description below if you're interested in getting a copy of Sibling Grief. Some of the benefits: it can give us vocabulary about the subject of sibling grief and sibling loss, help us identify and name our feelings about the loss, can help us learn how other bereaved siblings experience and deal with their loss. It can encourage insight and self-awareness, provide catharsis or the release of buried emotions, and it can stimulate our own creativity. It can reduce our feelings of isolation, recognizing our own emotions in other characters. And it can also help us see that our more negative emotions, such as jealousy and guilt, are normal, that we aren't the only ones experiencing them. Those are some of the main benefits listed. Right, so in A Hope Remembered, it's a story about a girl, Nora Lewis, who loses her fiance in the Great War, which is World War I. She's living in America, and she decides when her great uncle dies in England, and she inherits his sheep farm. So she moves to England wanting a new start. And I think all of us can kind of understand that experience of wanting a fresh start after such a great loss, even though for her it was her fiance. And for the purpose of this channel, most people watching probably have lost a sibling, but if you had any loss, you can kind of understand that wanting to start over and that need for a change. So she moves to England, she meets her neighbor, Colin, who he and his brother had been pilots on the front lines in the Great War, World War I, and his older brother, who was supposed to be inheriting the title of Lord or Baron, I can't remember, but he was supposed to inherit a title, and the great manor that they lived in, and he was, oh, they're back. I don't know what's going on. I think they're tearing down this place that burned down. Our little store burned down, and I think they're tearing down the place finally, but they have to make all this noise today while I'm trying to film. Anyway, so take a million at this point. Alright, so Nora moves to England and she meets her new neighbor Colin, and he and his brother had been pilots at the on the front lines in World War I. And so one day their squadron goes out and meets up with some German pilots, flying in the front lines, and there's of course firefighting going on, and everybody makes it back except his brother. And he doesn't even realize this until he's getting out of his plane and he's looking around, and he realizes his brother's nowhere to be seen, and he thinks, well, maybe he's just late. And then one of his friends comes up and has a really horrified look on his face, and Colin asks where his brother is, and his friend says, you don't know? You didn't see? He was shot down. He's dead. And that's, of course, the opening of the book. So then, he goes home, and sorry, the trucks are back. Then he goes home, and because his brother was the older brother, now Colin is the one who inherits the title of baronet and all the responsibilities that go with it, and his brother had been raised to do that job, so he has none of the he was not raised with the idea that he would be having to take on that responsibility. And so throughout most of the book, Colin and his father kind of butt heads, and I think that's typical of any relationship between a father and son from what I've seen, but especially because the father was expecting the other son to become baronet and raised him with that intention, and Colin was not given the education to become baronet, so he has a completely different way of thinking and of doing things than his father. And so his father is, always talking about, well, your brother would have done it this way. And finally, by the end of the book, they come together and they realize, what they're saying to each other and the way that they've been acting. And so he finally says to his father, I am not Christian, I am not my brother, I am myself. And at that moment, he realized that he had been trying to fill his brother's shoes. He had been trying to be his brother. And he couldn't live that way. He had to live his own life. He could not live for his brother. And that is something that I've personally struggled with for a long time. Right after my brother passed away, I had several people who say, well, now you live for your brother. He lives through you. And there is no way that I would ever want to do some of the things that my brother did. I love my brother with all my heart, but teenage boys get into a lot of trouble sometimes. And I was not going to live quite as recklessly as my brother. But in some ways I tried to fill that place and do things differently than I normally would have. Trying to think of an exact example, but I can't come up with one now that I'm thinking about it. But you know, I am a completely different person than my brother. I have a different way of thinking, I have a different way of looking at the world, and so I was never able to successfully try and step into his shoes like part of me thought I was supposed to. Like I was somehow supposed to pick up the slack and be, you know, both myself and live in the place of my brother for my parents. To, you know, and I think that's a normal, that's a normal struggle for surviving siblings. We want our parents to be happy, we want to comfort them, we want to make it easier on them, and we don't want to let them know when we're hurting because we don't want them to hurt anymore. And so we try and pick up those pieces, and we can't because we are not our siblings. I am not my brother. Colin is not his brother Christian. And we have to live our own lives. We have to move forward in life as ourselves, but also honor our siblings and do things to remember them. And, you know, it's okay to sometimes do things that they would have done and, you know, widen our horizons, so to speak, you know. But you can't live that way 100% of the time. You can't always be trying to live as your sibling. Yeah, so, you know, we are not able to really step in their shoes and take over, kind of picking up all the pieces and being both ourselves and them. We can't step into their place and live for them because we have to live our own lives, and it's a very hard thing to have to try and do. You know, that is the main thing that I really took out of this book that helped me to see more of how normal that was. I mean, I've heard other people say it, but to read it and hear and really process it that way, that's something that really, you know, I really took a lot from. And you know, just that whole stepping up and being the only child, you know, the only surviving child of your parents, and having, kind of puts this weight on you, like, okay, now it's all on me. In the future, when they get older and, you know, need help and he's not there, you know, it will all be on me. I've watched my parents, you know, have to clean out my grandmother's apartment and deal with, you know, her death and everything that's associated with, you know, the paperwork and just the emotion and going through all of that. And my mom doesn't have siblings, so it all fell on her and on my family. And it really opened my eyes to see, you know, what in the future I could have to face, and he's not here. And that's, you know, another thing in this book that, you know, Colin is forced to have to make decisions on what needed to be done to save his family home that, you know, he shouldn't have. In a perfect world, he would not have been the one making those decisions and was not prepared for that on his own. And so, you know, there's a lot of, so it's a very similar kind of experience for him is what I've experienced. A lot of the same kind of emotions and everything. Sorry, I'm being attacked by mosquitoes. I will probably have to go inside in a minute. But yeah, so kind of close out here. At the end of the chapter, there is a list of questions to help evaluate, to ask yourself, you know, after reading the book, whatever book you choose. And the final step, I guess you would call it, in bibliotherapy, she suggests to use your creativity, and you can draw a picture, do a painting, make a collage, whatever, to help process some of the try and bring closure to your work in using that book. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll share that in the next video. Thank you for watching this video, and if everything goes well, I will have another video posted next Wednesday. So far this camera's doing well. We'll see. And as always, subscribe, hit the notification bell to know when new videos are posted. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and comment down below if you have comment down below if you have a book that has worked for you, is, you know, in a similar way to bibliotherapy. If you've ever actually done bibliotherapy specifically, I'd love to know all about it. And I will see you next Wednesday, hopefully without all the mosquitoes. Bye. Oh my gosh, the mosquitoes have really liked my knees. Definitely time to go in. Ouch. Here's part of our flower bed garden that my mom has put together. Sort of with the intention of it being in memory of my brother, but after the flood, things kind of, she doesn't have the same little plaque that she used to. But thought it's pretty. Thought I would share it.